Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Del challenges the status quo, questions everything, and empowers you to return to your core beliefs to make your life better. If you're ready to hear the truth and get your roadmap to the lifestyle you really want, the next hour will change your life. And now, your host, self-made millionaire, national award-winning investor of the year, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Today, to help me in this endeavor is Lynn Murrow, which is the Executive Vice President of Lifestyles Unlimited, and we're happy to have her on the show today with us. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Del.
I'm going to run you through the ringer today, young lady. I've got a couple different topics I want to throw at you and get your opinion on. And since we didn't set anything up previous to this show, I just wanted to get your honest opinion off the top. Couple things we're going to cover today, folks. If you're listening, I want you to be able to know what's coming so you can stay tuned for this. I'm going to talk, bring in on the discussion we've had all week long in the debate as to what does your crystal ball say for the future, when and how deep is this recession going to go, and how should we play our hand. So that's one thing I want to get her on. The second one is we've got a member out there in California who had got on TV, on the news, and told everybody he was going to open his business. Now his business is a set of health clubs. He owns 3 health clubs out there in California. And he set it up to where he had the gyms all cleaned and ready to go and remodeled, repainted, and he was ready to open. But he went and got himself constitutional attorneys because he wanted to make sure that if they came and shut him down and threw him in jail, he had somebody who could get him out of jail and make sure that he'd be okay. Well, the constitutional attorneys, said to him, what you need to do is you need to announce it. I guess they must have convened with him and come to the conclusion he should announce it. So he did a TV interview with the news or somebody. I saw the interview on Facebook, but I didn't see who it was that was doing it. But he basically let everybody know that he was just opening up for constitutional reasons, that a man and a woman have the right, an American have a right to own a business, to open the business and produce income. And so the whoever it was, the city, the state, whoever it was, came down on him and told him if he opened it, he's going to jail. And his constitutional attorneys told him, well, look, let's not get you thrown in jail because that's going to hinder our case later on down the line when we get to federal level, because you'll be a dirtied witness of some kind. I don't know what the word for it is. You probably do, Lynn, but you're a spoiled witness if you've once been arrested for something. So your word doesn't take as much. So we're going to come back to that. And then the third one I want to get you on record on is this, I believe it's Ocasio-Cortez has come up with a new, just out of her mind scheme to go out and try to get people to protest for a total rent. What's the word for it? You know the word for it. A rent strike.
Cancellation.
A national rent strike, national rent cancellation. And I've got a whole diatribe of things that I want to get into that. So that's what we're going to cover today. They're all 3 good topics, and we're going to start, Lynn, with the one about the debate that's been going on all week, and I'll just fill you in on the debate real quick, and you can pick it up where you want to. And that is, the debate has really gone between 2 different sides. One side, myself side, is saying, look, what we're not realizing is this thing isn't going to come right back. And the reason that it's not is because we have 23 million unemployed people. Little data, the last 8 recessions we've had, unemployment has gotten as high as 2 and 2.5 million people. So this is 10 times the level of unemployment we've ever had. So even if those people come back, if 90% of the people that are in unemployment right now come back to work, we're still at a recessional level of unemployment. Some jobs and some businesses are going to go out of business. That's all there is to it in my mind. And the thought process is that, okay, it hasn't happened yet, but this has only been 2 months. And everybody I spoke to at Lifestyles that owns apartment complexes has between $300,000 and $500,000 cash in their bank. So they're not going down the first month. They're not going down the second month. It's going to take months of this type of stuff, or 1 or 2 months if Ocasio-Cortez gets her way and they tell everybody not to pay rent. But whatever, the thought process is that the recession hasn't even occurred yet, and it's going to take a while for businesses, and not just real estate. That's the thing that these real estate people are not seeing. Their theory, the other side of the theory is real estate is so strong, and there's so much pent-up desire to buy that as soon as any kind of discounts occur, then people will buy them right back up, and so there'll be no downward trend. The knife won't fall. Along with the concept that, well, what about all the other stuff? What about commercial real estate? It's going to get destroyed. And the banks are going to eat that stuff, and they're going to throw it back on the market. When they throw it back on the market, these big boys are going to suck that commercial stuff up at 50 cents on the dollar. And you're going to find that all things, cars start to go back. People can't make their car payment. Homes, people can't make their home payments. When people are unemployed for some period of time, these things start to occur. And so it's about the timing of all this that's really the argument, that these types of disasters occur 12 to 18 months after the actual event. So we had the stock market crash in 2007 or 8, whatever it was. It took 18 months before unemployment got to its peak. 18 months before you couldn't borrow money. It just was a completely different animal. It isn't a completely different animal. The other side saying it is a completely different animal because there is money available now. There is resources available. People are still not hurting enough that it's not going to happen. So my argument is, hey, give this thing 6, 8, 12, 18 months, 24 months, and you're going to see that the chickens will come home to roost eventually sometime, as opposed to the other side saying, I don't think so. I think there's so much demand. There's so much money on the sidelines that if any kind of real estate ever comes open, they'll just buy it up and prices won't go down. How do you see this, Lynn? I mean, because there's two logical arguments here. Where do you see yourself falling on this argument?
I certainly agree that it is a long tail event, right? It is going to be something that plays out over time, and people are going to be sitting there saying, oh, look, we're recovering, just as the dominoes start to pick up speed. And so it's always counterintuitive. And so I do think that we're going to have a more prolonged recession, and I don't think that was predetermined. I think it is going to occur because of the complete incompetence of the people that we have making the decisions in Congress. And we're getting in a position where the Senate and the President are being forced to sign legislation that we always know this is a compromise process. It's less than perfect, but they are now signing very flawed legislation because they've got to get something out there. And so it's whether you want the collapse now or you want the collapse later, they are heading for a collapse. One of the most insidious things going on is you have people like AOC, for those of you that are not familiar with her, her name is Alexandria. I got her name written down here somewhere because I call her AOC so much. Cortez, right. And she is calling for this rent strike. She is in the House of Representatives. And last Friday when we talked, we had 13 people who were supporting the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act, which is essentially a takeover of housing, turning housing public would be the result. And, of course, there are long, long studies of what happens to public housing. And now we have 5 more people this week who have joined on that bandwagon. All of these people are taking political advantage of the people that they say they want to help. They are out there rallying this cry for a rent strike, and they are pushing legislation. And they have the power to fix this. They have the power to issue a voucher program that would pay the rent for people who have actually lost their jobs, lost income, or been furloughed temporarily from their job. And you get from the left the accusation that the right is helping the rich. Well, they would keep me and you. We don't have to pay our mortgage on our own homes either, Del, if you had one, right? And I don't need that support. and neither do a lot of other people. But they're supporting that the wealthy all the way down get the same thing. And that is a complete waste of resources. So they have within their power to fix this right now. And they won't do it for political reasons.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Lynn Merle and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Lifestyles Unlimited is the real estate investor education and mentoring group that has been taking people by the hand and teaching them how to invest in real estate for 29 years. Our students have been so successful at creating wealth and passive income that they have won local, state, and national Investor of the Year awards 12 of the last 12 years. If you're ready to add real estate to your portfolio, go to lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com to access our free live training event schedule.
Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me today is Lynn Merle, Executive Vice President of Lifestyles Unlimited. And we're extending the debate of when and how bad this recession is going to occur. So the next thing I'm going to bring up, Lynn, is the fact that they have created $2 trillion worth of stimulus. And yesterday I did a example of how stimulus doesn't work, just a little piece, a visual piece. And I got more emails that I've gotten in a long time really, really liking this piece. So I'm going to use it again, but I've got something to use it against completely differently after I'm done. I'm going to share it with everybody, and then I'm going to deviate from it and change it, okay? So the story went something like this. There was a broke town where everybody in town was broke, and a stranger from out of town comes in, goes to the hotel and said, I'd like to have a room. And the guy said that'd be $100 for the night. The guy pulls out a $100 bill, sits it on the counter, and says, okay, let me go check the room before I decide if I'm going to stay. So while the guy goes upstairs to check the room, the hotel operator runs over to the auto mechanic and pays his bill for the auto repairs he did. And then the auto repairman runs to the grocer and pays his bills for the groceries he bought on credit. And then the grocer runs to the prostitute, and by the way, the town is in such bad difficulty, the prostitute has to work on credit, and pays his bill to the prostitute. And the prostitute runs back down to the hotel and pays her bill for the room she's been using. By about that time, the guy that was going to rent the room comes downstairs and says, no, this is inadequate. I'm not going to stay here. He picks up the $100 bill off the counter and walks out. That's what stimulus does. It lets everybody off their bills, yet nothing has been produced. Nothing has been done. No one has enjoyed any product whatsoever, and no one has actually earned any money. No one's better off. So if they want to eliminate all the bills and make this a socialist economy, let's just talk about that same example, but reverse it. Instead of somebody coming in and paying the money and the money going around, the government comes in and says, all of you owe nothing. You owe nothing. It's free. So what happens? Do you think the hotel guy keeps the hotel rooms clean and ready to go? No. Do you think the auto mechanic's out there busting his hind end fixing cars? No, he's not going to get paid to do it. Do you think the grocery store guy is out there risking killing cattle and letting food go to waste and perish, so he's buying food that just perishes? No, he's not going to take that risk. And do you think the prostitute's going to go to work, hard-working job every day? No, I doubt it, because there's nothing to be gained. And in this world where there's nothing to be gained, is there anything to be lost? And the answer is yes. The term is called productivity. All productivity, all invention, all creativity, every kind will be eliminated because of the socialist agenda that AOC and her friends have come up with. What I can't understand, what irritates the bejeebers out of me, because I've never been political before, is why the rest of you normal people are letting them do it. Why are you guys letting them do it? Now, by the way, I made a mistake, Lynn, the other day by saying just contact me. So you're going to have to fix this for me. We need a political front person because I got about 200 emails, and I'm not going to take another 200 emails. And I directed like 10 of them to you, just so you know they were coming in, and so you can think about how to fix this. But, we got a guy that's a very political guy in our group. I think we need to drag him into this, and, he's run for everything in the world. Maybe we'll run him for president now. I don't know. But maybe he's the guy who should get all these emails. We need a front person to take this thing. We need it to be like an arrow that's going to attack the problem. How do you see this?
Well, I see your analogy as being exactly right. I think as far as the emails, so we know that you want to help. You're going to have to contact your representatives. And you're going to have to contact the people who support bills like the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act and let them know what you think. And it's harder you can get to your representatives. It's much harder to get heard by people who don't represent you. So that's a challenge you can take on. And, we have out there in social media, along with the National Apartment Association, who did decide to join with us in this call, very easy ways to send your thoughts in to your representatives. I would also ask you to change up the title on those emails and to reach out separately, because a mass mailing they recognize very quickly as a mass mailing. Make phone calls, talk to people. But we will. I'd like to have Matthew Haynes on, who has served as a councilman in an incredibly small town in North Texas for a decade. And he and I joined Lifestyles. He joined a few years after I did, and we've known each other a long time. But it is amazing what just those local positions can do. Because he's a councilman in even a very tiny town in Texas, he was able to get his senator's ear for an hour to talk about housing issues, to inform that person of what the results of certain actions will be, and then to show how we know what those results will be. And I think that's where the power is. We have to actually put our time and talent where our mouth is, and we have to go out and run for those positions. And we have to then use that access in order to help all of our representatives throughout the chain here make better decisions.
I want to bring go back to the debate argument again, because I just thought of something I wanted to make a point of with you, and that is one of the things I don't think they're seeing is that the states and municipalities are now broke. There's no tax revenue. And every time they take away the fat, like somebody like Ocasio-Cortez comes up with this idea, we won't pay rent to anybody, right? What is going to happen is the government say, okay, you can't collect rent. Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Every landlord out there is going to stop paying their mortgage payment. They're going to stop paying their taxes. They're going to stop paying their water bills, gas and electric bills, and they're just going to let these people sit there and suffer. And eventually, no maintenance, no repairs, no nothing. Then the government's going to come in and say, well, you have to leave the utilities on by law. And say, okay, you can leave them on. We're not paying for them. So now the utility companies are going to go broke, and they're not going to pay their taxes. So there's even less revenue out there. And eventually they won't have the money to pay their employees, and so there'll be no service. So when things start to break down, heaven forbid something like a hurricane or tornado occurs, because there'll be nobody to take care of any of that. Eventually the repairs and maintenance on these apartments will fall into total disrepair. The government will come in and say you have to maintain things at certain levels, and then people just walk away from these things. If you haven't read the book Atlas Shrugged, then you don't understand what I'm talking about. But eventually the people that are the producers in this world, the successful people, I'm not saying the smartest, although many times they are the smartest, but the successful people, the ones who get things done, who work hard to make our lives wonderful, they're going to walk away. They're just going to get up and leave. There'll be a place that will take them in. There'll be some state somewhere that will protect the intelligent people. I would have hoped it would have been Texas, but now we've got all these Californians moving here. Who knows? It may not even be Texas anymore. It may be someplace else. But the bottom line is, the more they take away the profit incentive, the more they take away the work incentive. And downward and downward and downward we go. So, like I said, Lynn, we talk about this. How long does it take before the state's going broke actually means something? When they can't pay the pension plans, when they can't hire the police and the fire department? When does that all really mean something? We'll take a short break. Be right back with Lynn Murrow and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Get total freedom in your life, safely and quickly. Build wealth and passive income so you never worry about working until you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty. 29 years ago, Del Walmsley founded Lifestyles Unlimited. Del has taught over 100,000 people, just like me and you, the principles of financial freedom through his national radio shows and personal one-on-one mentoring at Lifestyles Unlimited. I'm excited to tell you about the real estate workshop that has changed so many lives. This workshop takes you inside what we do and what we believe. We'll share with you the 5 ways we make money in real estate and much more. Just like your personal trainer, the Lifestyles Unlimited team will motivate, encourage, and teach you so you can get in the best financial shape of your life. Call 866-971-8970 or go to lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com. That's lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com to register for the workshop that will change your life. That's lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com.
Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me here today is Lynn Murrow, the Executive Vice President of Lifestyles Unlimited. And Lynn, we're going to sort of shift directions here a little bit and talk about the positives of what's happening, what's going on. And today is the day when most of the country, not most, some percentage of the country is going to start opening up stuff to the phase 1 opening process. Here in Houston, I've heard there's going to be restaurants open. There's a list somewhere. I'm going to go find the list when I get off the radio show and, try to find a place that I could get out and get a bite to eat with a drink. And I'm kind of leery thinking that, okay, all my favorite steakhouses and stuff are probably going to only have to provide 25% of the tables they normally would. On any Friday night, I couldn't get a reservation if I wanted to in most of these places. You'd come in, maybe sit at the bar and wait an hour or two to get to a table. So if it's only 25% of the tables, it doesn't seem like that's going to be a lot of satiation to people. It's going to be some, but not much. And then I start to think to myself, how does a business operate with 25% of its income? There's margins to every business, and the restaurant business is the same. The grocery business has very small margins, but the restaurant business has small margins also, mostly on alcohol. It's where they make most of their money. So if you only have 25% of the people sitting there and you've got all the overhead as a fixed number, I don't see how they make money. I'm just thinking it's, okay, as an apartment owner, we've got all of our fixed costs. Now let us have only 25% of our, tenants, occupants, and we're going broke. So I'm wondering, how do these restaurants provide product at a 25% level and survive? Or is this just a government feel good? In other words, we're letting people get out a little bit, so now they're feeling. It's just like a hypnotist trying to make you believe things are better so that we won't feel so bad, so that we won't vote the people that did all this craziness out. And before I hand the mic back over to you, I just want to tell you a story. I got it on my text right here. There's a guy that just looks so perplexed, like he's going to die. He's got his hand on his chest. He's got his eyes rolled back like he's praying to God. He's just out of his mind, intensely perplexed. And he says, I guess I should be happy. The government has taken away all of my money, all of my assets, and my home, my job, my business. But thank God they've saved me from a virus that kills 0.01% of the people that are come in contact with it. Thank God the government did all that for me. I'll leave you with that one right from there. What do you think? Is this phase thing just a scam or what?
Well, so this is along the same theme that we started the show with, is that this is political grandstanding. And this is one of the most insidious things about having career politicians versus the founders who put together business people who served for a short period of time in Congress and then went back to their businesses. So you have people who have never run a business, never really done anything other than be in politics or associated with politics, making decisions. And you're exactly right. 25% of your business is not enough for most businesses to make a profit. And so what you have happening is really the opposite of what they say they had hoped for. You have the Subway shops, the inexpensive restaurants are unable to reopen for two reasons. One is that their employees don't want to come back. They're making more money on unemployment. They're making more on unemployment because of the $600 a week federal kicker than they made working, so they don't want to come back. And two, they're on the smallest margins. The ones that are opening will be the high-end restaurants because they've got bigger margins. And then how does retail open? How do you buy an outfit to go out to dinner that they're going to bring to the curb? There's some of these things that are difficult to do, so it hasn't been thought out. But these businesses will think them out. Some will try just to get back out there, just to feel like they're not going to collapse. But if you think about it, not everybody was able to get the payroll protection program loans. And those that did can certainly bring their people back, but now they're fighting the fact that, their people have been on unemployment until those loans came through, and they're going, you want me to take a pay cut? I could just ride this out. But what's going to happen at the end of this? Because it isn't the same as the last Great Depression or even the last recession. There's two things at play here. One is that housing was in short supply before this all started. So people who don't pay their rent could be quite surprised to see what happens at the other end. The other thing is that employment was scarce as well, or as we couldn't find enough people to work before this started. But as businesses collapse, people are going to have to compete. So if you sit there on unemployment and you run that out, and then you run on down to the sandwich shop to get back your job, there's going to be a new smiling face behind that counter that wasn't able to get unemployment, or just their ethics made them go back to work, and your job's gone. So there's a lot of dynamic going on in the market right now, and we're going to have to see how this goes. Now, if we can move pretty quickly through it, Texas is on the vanguard, I think. If they can move pretty quickly through this process, then 25% is going to be fine because they're going to be able to get their supply chain in order. They're going to be able to ramp up. And so all of that is going to make sense, and they're going to be able to make some money during that ramp-up period. But if we have a hiccup, or if we have mayors or governors in states that are trying to keep a lid on this, even though they do not have numbers of coronavirus that would show that makes sense, then their states and the businesses in their states are really going to suffer.
I wonder, as a businessman, because you and I we had this conversation about 8 weeks ago when this all came up, and we thought everything was going to be shut down and there was going to be no way to operate. We figured out how to operate, so ingenuity brought us through. But the conversation that I wonder how many people have had is, isn't it cheaper for us to shut down than to try to operate at 25%? Because at 25%, I have to have almost 100% of my overhead in play. I've got to have all my heating on, all my air conditioning on, all my kitchen on. I've got to have the complete kitchen staff. And maybe I have one or two less waiters or waitresses. But in general, my heavy overhead is not a marginal expense. It's a fixed expense. And I'm better off to shut the doors and stop the fixed expenses. And then you go back to somebody like me, and this is where the argument hits home for those people. And this is what these people you're talking about, these politicians don't get. They've never owned a business. They've never worked through this. So the question is, if I've got X number of dollars in the bank, make up a number you're comfortable with that you and your family have, would I not be better just to shut everything down and stop losing money and then I can maybe survive on the money I have saved up until the world comes back to normal? Why should I open my business and risk losing money, having a negative cash flow position? Now, there's a lot of people that are stupid. They don't understand what negative cash flow is. All you have to do is watch the profit on TV to see that. People have been losing money for 2 or 3 years, and they're $400,000 or $500,000 in the hole, and they don't even realize it. There are people stupid enough to not realize that, right? But for those of you that understand business, there's that question. Is it not better for us just to stay closed? And that's an argument that's going to be seen because the shell game, Lynn, if there is one here, is that they gave us 8 weeks. You know, you got the PPP, gave us 8 weeks of employee pay. You've got the $1,200 they gave per person, and they've got unemployment. The concept is, we've given them enough to get them through what we're going to call phase 1. By phase 2, things should have started picking back up again, so we won't need those, although we're telling everybody we've got a quiver that's still full of fake money, and if we have to, we'll throw more fake money at you. But other than that, that's the shell game, isn't it? It's an 8-week. It's really like everybody's holding their breath and saying, can we make it 8 weeks? Because supposedly at the end of 8 weeks, everything changes, which is really what I'm questioning. Does it or does it not? I feel like there's going to be some change because I think the political thing is going to work. People are going to go, God, it feels so much better to get out and have a meal and this and that. And I don't believe, I have absolutely no reason to have any right to say this, okay, because I'm not a medical person at all. I don't believe that the number of deaths goes up radically. Now, here's the argument. This is the other argument we had yesterday. Let's see how well, I guess we can't. We'll pick it up when we get back to the other side. We'll be right back with Lynn Merle and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
What would happen if you didn't show up for work tomorrow? For the next couple of days? For a week? A couple of months? A year? How long until you lose everything you've worked for in a fraction of the time it took to earn it? If this fear keeps you up at night, it's time to learn the strategies we teach at Lifestyles Unlimited. Start with the free workshop. Go to lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com and find your true financial peace, like so many of our members already have. That's lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com.
Welcome back. Now here's some more unconventional wisdom to set you free from the man on a mission to retire America, one person at a time, Del Walmsley.
The radio show. Here with me today is Lynn Merle, Executive Vice President of Lifestyles Unlimited. It's a wonderful Friday because supposedly it's the beginning of phase 1, opening up of our economy and so forth. And Lynn, as we went to break, I was going to make a point that, when we open this up, the real worry is it going to accelerate the death process and start killing everybody. So I know that you've got 2 or 3 of our attorneys or more on your speed dial, so get your finger on the dial right now because I'm going to say some things that are going to freak some people out. And I'm going to have to probably try to clarify them, but I really think you should think about this for a second. First of all, what are liberals? Their people believe that science knows best, that God does not exist. And so there is no righteous reason that God would kill all these hundreds of thousands, or not, we're up to 63,000, 65,000 people. Why would God do that? Well, God doesn't exist, so we can't go to God for the answer. So what do we go to? We go to science, all right? So science is our God, if we're a liberal. Well, as science being our God as a liberal, we have to ask ourselves, why is it killing all liberals? And then we go back to science in this thing called natural selection. There is a scientific belief that the earth has a process of natural selection. Those that are the weakest, those that are the less productive, will go away naturally. That's the way it works. So now you know the liberals right now, they're screaming, they're pulling their hair out, Lynn. They're trying to poke their eyeballs out with pencils. I can see it right now. But what's even worse is, why has the natural selection killed everybody in New York City? Or not everybody, but a very large number. I saw today that around 300 people died yesterday. And I looked at the numbers. It looks like it's been averaging, it's been coming down from 400 to 300 over the last multiple days. But the reality is, if you look at Houston, Texas, we have a total of 700 dead people. Now, think about what I just said. We have a total of 700 coronavirus victims. New York was getting thousands of people a day. Now, does that not scientifically, liberals, say something about the way you live? And then you have minorities. And you say, doesn't it scientifically say that being out of shape, overweight, obese, the kinds of food that some types of people eat are not as healthy as the other types of food other people eat? Is there not a scientifically logical thing there? We're not saying they're better people, worse people, smart people, dumb people. We're saying a culture has created a scientifically proven factual environment that certain ways of life, mostly called liberal, are unhealthy. Now, if they're not up and calling their congressman right now, if they are not got Lorne Michaels on the telephone right now to do a Saturday night, if they have not called the police to come surround me and tell me that I'm some kind of an activist, I can't believe why, because they don't understand that's what's going on. They're screaming science, and the science all says they're doing everything wrong. So when we open this back up again, who's going to suffer? And when that group of people suffers, it's going to be an argument for the liberals that our country is not socialistically fair, that we have developed a country that's not fair to the black and the brown person. But the reality is it's just as fair for them as it is for anybody else. All they have to do is not weigh 300 pounds in second grade. Right? It's a belief system.
Yeah, it is a belief system. And you have, the sad thing about it is that, again, you've got the political soundbite that even has stolen the science. So we've given a lot of attention to New York, and there's been a lot of praise, even from Republicans, for Cuomo, right? He has come out and he has shined as an orator. But if you actually look at the science of New York versus the science of Florida, which they're very comparable, Florida has more people and a drastically lower death rate. They took a totally different approach. They weren't alarmist, and they got close to zero press coverage, and they've been much more successful. So even the science is being co-opted, and people are going to have to get into some reality in order to get through this, and it is going to harm some people more than others, and it isn't going to be because they're downtrodden, because they are in these protected classes that everyone is picking on. It's going to be because of their own personal choices. You're absolutely right.
So we're going to hell, Lynn. I don't know if I get out of the house alive today. I might be dead by the time I get to the restaurant, So the bottom line is that people don't want to hear it. They want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to do what they want to do. When I first found out about the COVID virus thing, the first thing I did was lose 15 pounds. I had my doctor's visit over the phone yesterday, and the doctor said, "You lost 15 pounds." I go, "You darn right. Why? Because I don't want to die. I'm old. I have high blood pressure. I have high blood sugar. I have low testosterone, and everything in my blood work that should be up is down. Everything should be down is up, and I'm that guy. The big finger is pointing at me. I'm the guy who dies next. So what did I do? I lost 15 pounds. My blood sugar went down. My this went down. My blood pressure went down. Everything went down. Guess what? People have choices, Lynn. They can make that choice to not overeat, to not overdrink, to not take drugs. And, of course, let's get this in. They can make the choice to be financially free. Tell them, Lynn, how can we get them in? It's time now. You need to know how to do this. You've got to get in now so you're educated and ready to go when these opportunities open up. How can they find us? Go
to Lifestyles, with an S, lifestylesunlimited.com. And you can look around our website. You can find out more about Dell. You can binge listen to our podcast by clicking on the radio tab. And right there, there'll be a pop-up that allows you to register for our free workshop, which is delivered virtually across the nation. So there's no excuse to not get started because we're going to be right there on a computer screen near you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in at short notice, and I hope that you have a great weekend. How about you? You got 10 seconds. Are you going to go out and find something to eat, or are you going to stay in?
Oh, we absolutely are going to support our local small businesses. We will be out there spending our money and trying to do all we can to help them open.
Because it's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, teaching you the opposite of everything you've been taught so you can obtain the results you've never obtained. Join us 7 days a week. Can't get enough? Visit DellOnTheRadio.com to listen to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, access past show podcasts, and join the conversation.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley Radio Show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers, and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station, its affiliates, its management, or advertisers. The Del Walmsley Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.